As I graduated with an engineering degree, I struggled to find a job with a growth, and to be honest, I wasn't very good at engineering. I did the degree because at the time it looked quite lucrative, and after a series of failing jobs and lost career path, I was out to find a new one. The key skill that I had was the ability to deal with people, and so I did. I stepped into the real estate business, thinking it'd be an easygoing as communicating with people come very natural to me. So after learning the basis of what and what not to do in the industry, I joined up with an agency and started doing these frequent client visits. It took me around a year and all the good and bad experiences to quickly make my way to the top ranks. It was almost as if I was made to do this. It was then that the firm decided to make me manage a complete area instead of just single visits in the house. So now the real estate agents were working under my supervision and guidance. I taught them the ways to interact and the steps on how they can really sell a house during client visits. Forming a team, I taught them the most efficient ways to optimize open houses. Soon, our team was one of the best, and we were competing toe-to-toe with our rivals at Thompson Real Estate. All we needed was one more sold house to become number one. The call-in came from Emily. There was a client that wanted to visit the Pendleton Mansion. It was the mansion that would put us on the national map and a leading firm and real estate firm in the country. Emily came to me asking me a favor as the client who wanted to visit the mansion at night. It was an unusual request, but it was the chance that we were not willing to miss. So I decided to give the client visit on my own instead. I myself did not want to put Emily in any unforeseen trouble that might come forth if anything goes sideways. So I decided to handle this meeting on my own. And instead of doing the normal client protocol, I decided to stir it up a little bit. There were 3 houses that I lined up for them, and to make sure that no commotion is created, I selected the 3 houses right on the center of the city. Since they asked for the pretty vintage style, they were very selective houses that I had chose and were quite pricey, and surprisingly, they did say that budget was no problem and that I could go on to the maximum of it. I was arranging things at the first house when I heard a commotion on the outside. I went outside and saw the family waiting over the lawn. They were all dressed very well, and it was certain that they did not like the house. So I got outside and greeted them. They looked at the house and they were skeptical about it. They liked neither the house nor the neighborhood. And for once, I agreed. The neighborhood did seem a bit noisy and were giving weird stares, so I gave them the address to another house and told them to visit it next night. Next night, the family reached before I could go on and arrange the house, standing in the lawn waiting for me. I greeted them, and we entered the house and started discussing the rooms. They asked if they could keep tenants here, and unfortunately the neighborhood did not allow that. And the fact that this was yet another nosy neighborhood made them walk away from the house. Hopefully, I was waiting to sign the 3rd house and was a bit confident about it, since there was no immediate neighbor. They arrived before me as usual and waited. They entered and were immediately in love with the place. They were digging the eerie vibe the place had and were quite happy with it. The house looked like the Gatsby house, and the seclusion from people and still being in the city was something they adored. They were keen on finalizing the deal, and so I took the papers out. I was set and done for the night when they said that they will sign it the next night and they wanted to stay for the night at the house. They put on some music that I had selected for the furnishing and just started slow dancing. Their daughter, who must have been around 22, held my hand and started slow dancing with me. It was certain that the deal was final. So I entertained the thought of slow dancing with her. As a matter of fact, she was beautiful. A bit pale, but beautiful, and I was 27 and single. So for once, I did entertain the idea. She asked me if she would like to join her for the dinner the next night, and then the whole family extended the invitation, and I said sure. They insisted on staying the night at the mansion, and I did not mind since paperwork was almost done and they were pretty final about it. As I left the house and kept moving forward towards my car that was parked in the distance, a man approached me. He had a set of long binoculars in his hand, and it made me go into the alert mode since he was giving me all the vibes of a stalker. But then he looked at me and said, "You don't look crazy." I asked what he was talking about, and then went on to tell me that I was dancing alone in the abandoned house. I told him I was the real estate agent and showing the house to a family. He pulled up his binoculars toward the house, and exclaimed, "What family?" And then he handed me the binocular, and as I held it and watched, there was no one. So I opened the door and decided to check back. The man followed me this time. I called out for the family, but nobody came, and I assumed maybe they left. I was pissed at first because of the carelessness they just showed, so I went on to lock the door. The man with me continued, "What are you doing?" I told him I was locking the door so no one could enter and steal. The man said, "There is no door, mate. What are you closing?" And as I looked back, all I could see was a broken home, riddled with grass and several plastered cracks. The house was as old as one can get. There was no house, no family, and apparently, I wasn't a real estate agent. Well, not when I was alive anyway. I remember that I am just reliving my memories, and that house was the last one I had. I was shortly murdered on my way back from that house, and my murder was none other than the man with binoculars. I relive the memories of my life every single day and forget about them, almost as if I'm alive. Hey guys, thanks so much for all the support. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please feel free to do so. The new house on the Edmonton, we will call it the new house. The house is quite old, older than one can imagine it to be. But it is called the new house as every month there is a new family that comes to live in that house, and every month they move away. The new house on the Edmonton is a place that you definitely want to stay away from. It has been more of a fun experience for us as a neighborhood watching all these families get spooked out and leaving too soon. But for us, it has been hilarious trails to see them all go. All families leaving one by one. Was the house haunted? Yes. It was, but why were we not bothered by it? Well, the answer was clear when the Donald family moved here. As per routine, the first day of Donald family was calm and collective, and then, the very next day, they saw their first apparition in the house, and the second day, things were moving fast for them. The Donalds were a weird bunch. They almost had no luggage when they came to the place. The first step they took was completely make it different. The things were placed different, and they were in some very weird things. And we realized there was something more to them, and we soon realized it. The second week during midnight, they did the ceremony of catching a ghost. They made sure that somebody watched so they could set up the live stream, and as they did, they continued the ceremony. And when they did, they turned out to smoke a weird herb. And what it did was mellowed the ghost, and it fell and rolled out over the front. They quickly jumped out on the ghost, and after a while, they revealed the true identity of the ghost. It was the real estate agent who would try to lure all these people out so he can scam them and the company could get commissions from the house. It was the most hilarious scam we ever saw in the neighborhood, and we were sorry for those poor souls who fell for the stupid joke. Everybody still talks about people who fell for the ghost in the new house. I work as a security/nighttime attendant at an apartment building. It's 24 stories and one of the oldest in the city. One night, I'm sitting here when the phone rings at about 3 a.m. and I answer, "Hello, this is Daniel with front desk. How can I help you?" The voice on the other end sounds female, but was totally garbled, and the only bit I could make out was 23rd floor. I tried to tell the person that I could not understand them, and asked which apartment they were in, but again, gobbled the response. And I just made out 23rd floor. After the third time of trying to understand them, and the same response, I said I couldn't understand them. I would go up and meet them in the hallway. So I go to the main elevators, and surprise, surprise, they are both on the 23rd floor. Fortunately, we have an older service elevator, and it's only on the 7th. So I call it down, get it, and hit the button for the 23rd. but it won't move and the inner door won't close. But I go to unlock the reset panel, and boom, we start going up. Door's still open and freaking out a bit, and the elevator is shaking because it goes up pretty fast and isn't old. As I'm ascending, I just stay towards the back, and finally, I reach floor 23. I step out, door closes just fine, and I look around the hallway. There's nobody around. I walk along slowly, trying to listen for anyone awake who might have called, but there's nothing. So now, I head in the opposite direction and go towards where the regular elevators are. And when I get to them, they're just sitting there and their doors open. I was pretty freaked out, but I knew it would just be the elevator going Fritz. So I get in and figured out just reset them and get them to floor 1. When I heard the sound of the back stairwell closing, I quickly get out, go to the stairwell, and lo and behold, there's no one there. But the maintenance door to the machine room is ajar. And at that time, I'm the only one in the building with a key. At the top of the building is a large machine room housing all the really loud machinery that does stuff in the building and allows access to the roof. I don't like going into there because it's creepy as hell, and no one ever goes in there. So at this point, I'm seriously freaked out, but muster up and head inside. "Hello," I shout, but to no response. The lights in the room flicker because they're terrible fluorescent, so I can't see well either. But at the end of the room, I can make up the roof access door and show us how it's slightly open. So I slowly continue forward, checking the space in between each machine as I walk by to make sure there's no one there. And there isn't. I open the roof door access. I can't see anyone ahead of me on the roof, but there is a slight wraparound if there was a jumper or something I needed to be sure. So I step out and leave the door ajar. Like it was almost immediately, the door is pulled shut. Now I might have written off as wind or something, but this door is hard to shut and really hard to open. Really hard. I immediately grab the handle and yank it open, slam it behind me, and run straight for the maintenance door. It automatically locks when it's closed, so I slam it shut too, and go back to the 23rd floor hallway. Get into an elevator which the doors are still open for, and go all the way down to the first floor. I go back to the main lobby, and as soon as I sit down, the phone rings. I pick it up. Don't say a word, and sure as hell, gobbly voice again. The only audible thing I can hear is a voice saying 23rd floor. I hung up the phone, turned off the ringer, and spent the rest of the evening just staring at the parking garage security monitor. There's been a bunch of creepy things happening in this building. It's basically like the Overlook Hotel at night. I walked past a dark room here on the first floor once and swore I saw myself standing inside it. The next night, as I'm inside said room cleaning, the lights flip off, and I turned around to see a quick flash of myself walking past there. Must be some creepy ghost or something playing games with me at work. Why was it trying to leave me onto the roof of beer holding? I can only speculate, perhaps it wanted to throw me off.